Kava had always believed what he was told from the time he was young. He had been taught one lesson again and again: never trust a human. The elders repeated it during every gathering. The teachers said it during every lesson, even the training. Officers reminded him before every mission. Humans were dangerous, they said. Humans destroy. Humans lie. Humans cannot be trusted. Kava believed it. He had never met a human before. But the stories were enough. They had pictures of cities burning and ships exploding in space. They told the story of the Great Rift War, where humans had entered the Varel system without warning. The war ended years ago, but the fear remained. Now, Kava was a patrol scout. He flew with a team of 5. Their job was to watch the borders of Varel space. They looked for anything unusual: lost cargo, wandering pirates, broken satellites, and sometimes, they said, human activity. But in all his time, Kava had never seen a human ship. The space near the silent moon they orbited was usually quiet. That day started like any other. Kava sat in his small seat, reading the long sensor report. Outside, stars blinked gently. His commander, Reyna, sat 2 seats away, checking their next patrol route. The others were quiet, tired of empty shifts. Then the alarm rang. It was not loud, but it was sharp and steady. Kava looked at his screen. A signal had appeared just outside their zone. It was weak and slow, as if the sender barely had power. The crew leaned in as the data came through. "It is a distress signal," Reyna said. Her voice was calm but focused. "From where?" asked Relo, the engineer. Kava narrowed his eyes. He read the data once, then again. The signal was human. For a moment, nobody said anything. The air felt colder. Reyna stood. "We will investigate," she said, "but we will not engage. If the human is alive, we report it and wait for instructions." The crew nodded. Orders were clear. Their ship moved through space slowly, guided by the fading signal. After 20 minutes, the broken shuttle appeared on their screen. It was small, burned on one side, and spinning gently in the dark. One engine was gone. The rest of the hull was cracked. "No weapons detected," said Relo. "No movement either," added Reyna. "We scan, record, then return." The scan took 5 minutes. It showed one life form, weak but breathing, inside, in a small corner near the rear. A human was alive. Reyna turned. "We are not allowed to bring it aboard. You all know this." Kava tagged the location and closed the file. "We return now." Kava's hand hovered over the screen. He looked at the image of the human. The figure was curled up, body pressed against the cold metal wall. A piece of clothing covered his face. One arm was bent oddly. He looked small. Not like the monsters in the old stories. Not like the fighters in the training videos. Kava felt something strange. He was not sure what it was. He stood. "I will stay and check the shuttle," he said. Reyna frowned. "You heard the order." "Yes," Kava said. "But if he dies before the report is processed, we may lose a chance to learn something." Reyna looked at him for a long time. Then she sighed. 10 minutes, she said. "Do not touch the human. Do not speak. Just scan and return." Kava nodded. He took his helmet and stepped into the launch tube. His small scout pod detached from the main ship and floated toward the broken shuttle. Lights flashed as he moved closer. The human shuttle was in worse shape up close. One side had melted. The rest was covered in scratches. He landed gently on the outer hull and entered through a side door. The inside smelled like smoke and metal. Wires hung from the walls. A small light blinked near the control panel. Then he saw him. The human was lying in the corner, pale skin, short dark hair. The clothing was torn. There was blood on the left arm, but the wound was not fresh. His chest rose and fell slowly. Eyes closed. One hand held a small device close to his chest. Kava stared. He had expected fear. He had expected anger. But now that he was here, he felt neither. He looked around. The pod was not military. There were no weapons, just basic supplies and a small journal open on the floor. Kava looked at the human again. Then he looked at the time. 9 minutes had passed. He should return. He knew that. The rules were clear. Do not help. Do not interfere. But still, something held him back. He reached into his belt and took out a small injector. It was for emergency use. Used to stabilize wounded Varel soldiers. He had one extra. He bent down slowly, careful not to make a sound. He pressed the injector near the human's arm and activated it. The human stirred slightly, then went still. Kava stood. He should leave. That was the right thing to do. Instead, he opened his comm. "This is Kava," he said. "I found nothing important, just wreckage. No life signs." He ended the call before Reyna could respond. Then, without another word, he lifted the human gently and carried him into the pod. He placed him in the back, near the storage section. He covered him with a thermal cloth and secured the space with a locking panel. Then he flew back to the main ship. No one questioned him. The scan record had been edited. Kava said the shuttle was empty and useless. Reyna accepted his report later. That night, Kava returned to his scout pod. The human was still sleeping, breathing slowly. Safe for now, Kava sat near the small viewing port, watching the stars move past. He had broken a rule, but something inside told him he had done the right thing. He did not know why. He only knew that for the first time in his life, he had met a human, and he did not feel afraid. Kava visited the scout pod every night. It was parked in the lower docking bay, away from the main crew area. Most Varel officers never went there. It was quiet, dark, and easy to hide things. That was why he had chosen it. That was why the human was safe. The human had not woken yet. His breathing had become more steady. His wounds were healing slowly. Kava had used more emergency patches to stop the bleeding. He also brought food packs and clean water from the extra supply room. He moved carefully, made no sound, and erased all his tracks. On the third night, the human opened his eyes. Kava was checking the control panel when he heard a soft voice behind him. "Where am I?" Kava turned. The human was sitting up slowly. His hand rested on the metal wall. His voice was weak, but he was awake. His eyes were watching Kava closely, not with fear, not with anger, just quiet surprise. "You are on a scout pod," Kava said. The human blinked. "You are not human." Kava nodded once. "I am Varel." The human looked around. Then he looked back at Kava. "You saved me." Kava did not answer right away. He looked at the floor. Then he spoke in a low voice. "I was not supposed to. It is against the rules." The human smiled, but it was a tired smile. "Thank you anyway." There was silence between them for a few minutes. Kava did not know what to say. This was the first time he had ever spoken to a human. The first time he had heard a human voice that was not part of an old war video. "What is your name?" Kava asked. "Ben," the human said. "Ben Maris. I'm Kava," he replied. Ben leaned back and closed his eyes again. His body still needed rest. Kava stood and turned to leave. "I will return tomorrow," he said softly. Ben gave a small nod. Kava kept returning each night. He brought more food, more supplies, and sometimes simple tools for Ben to use. They began to speak more. Not much at first, just small things. Ben asked about the ship. Kava answered. Kava asked about Earth. Ben answered. Ben told him about green fields, deep oceans, and tall cities filled with lights. He spoke of music, of books, of quiet mornings with a cup of warm tea. He showed Kava a small screen device that held pictures and recordings. One clip showed children playing near a river. Another showed a bird flying across a golden sky. Kava watched in silence. He had never seen such images before. He had never thought of humans living peaceful lives. In his mind, they were always fighting, always invading. But these videos were calm, full of life and color. "Is this real?" Kava asked one night. Ben smiled. "Yes, it is real. Not everything on Earth is perfect, but it is home." Kava said nothing. He looked at the small screen again. A group of people were laughing around a table, sharing food. One woman looked like she was telling a funny story. Everyone else was smiling. He thought about the stories the elders had told, about fire and smoke, about humans with no heart. But this was different. One evening, while Kava brought more water, Ben asked something unexpected. "Why did you help me?" Kava stopped. He had asked himself that same question many times. He had no clear answer. But now, standing in the dim light of the pod, he tried to speak honestly. "I do not know," Kava said. "At first, I was curious. Then I saw your face. You looked not like an enemy. You looked lost, alone." Ben nodded. "I was alone. My ship was attacked by a group of raiders near the belt. I escaped, but the shuttle was damaged." "They were not Varel?" Kava asked. "No," Ben said. "They were mercenaries. Not from any world I know." Kava took a deep breath. That meant Ben had not come to attack. He had not crossed into Varel space on purpose. He was running for his life. The thought made Kava feel cold inside. "You were risking everything." Ben said, "For me." Kava looked at him. "I know." Ben lowered his eyes. "If they find me, they will punish you." Kava nodded. "Yes. Why still help me?" Kava sat down across from him. "Because when I talk to you, I do not feel hate, and that is something I never thought possible." One night, a supply officer named Donald came near the docking bay. He was searching for missing equipment. Kava saw him on the camera and quickly moved to block the path. He made up a story about testing the old flight panel. Donald believed him and walked away. That night, Kava's hand shook. The risk was growing. He knew that if Ben was found, he would be arrested. The Varel laws were clear. Helping a human meant betrayal. Ben saw the worry in Kava's eyes. "You should let me go," Ben said. "I cannot," Kava replied. "I can find a way out. You can say you never saw me." Kava shook his head. "I will not lie to save myself," Ben smiled. "Then you are better than what they told me." Kava looked up. "What do you mean?" Ben leaned back and spoke in a soft voice. "We were also told things. That Varel are cold, without emotion. That you never show kindness. That you see all humans as threats. But you're not like that. You are not what I expected." Kava thought about those words for a long time. Maybe both sides had believed lies. Maybe they had been told what to fear so they would never try to understand. But here they were, a human and a Varel, sitting in a hidden pod, sharing stories, sharing food, and something more. Trust. One evening, Kava brought a small metal coin. It was old and silver. It had a symbol of his home carved into it. He handed it to Ben. "My father gave me this," Kava said, "when I joined the patrol. I want you to keep it." Ben looked at the coin with care. "Thank you." They sat quietly. After that, outside, the stars continued to move across the dark sky. Inside the pod, two beings from different worlds sat close. No anger, no fear. Just the start of something new. The scout pod had become more than a hidden shelter for Kava. It was the one place that felt honest. Outside, he wore the uniform, followed orders, and stayed silent. Inside, he could speak freely. With Ben, he did not have to pretend. Every night, he visited the pod. He brought extra food, medical supplies, and sometimes old data tablets filled with Varel history. Ben always listened with interest. He never interrupted. He asked simple questions, not to challenge, but to understand. One evening, Kava showed Ben a Varel song. It was soft and slow, played on a wind instrument that made gentle rising notes. The song had no words, only sound. It was made to be felt, not just heard. Ben closed his eyes and listened. When it ended, he opened his eyes and smiled. "It feels like watching the sky right before rain," he said. Kava looked at him with surprise. "Yes, that is what it is meant to sound like." Ben laughed lightly. "I guess music is the same everywhere." That small moment stayed in Kava's mind for hours. A week passed. The crew grew busy with patrol changes. Rena assigned Kava to map a section near the outer ring. It was not far, but it gave him more time alone. He used that time to check on Ben more often. Ben was stronger now, He could walk short distances around the pod. He fixed a broken vent fan. He also cleaned the water filter without being asked. "You are recovering fast," Kava said one day. Ben smiled. "I heal quick." "Been through worse." Kava sat down beside him. The stars outside moved slowly past the glass window. The silence between them was not heavy. It was calm. Then Ben spoke. "May I ask something important?" Kava nodded. "Why do your people still believe humans are the enemy?" Kava looked at the floor. He took his time before answering. "When I was young, I saw a recording of the Great Rift War. Ships exploded. Cities fell. My uncle died during that time. My family never forgot. The elders said it was human pride, that you pushed into our space without care." Ben listened quietly. "I believed them," Kava continued. "But now, after hearing your stories, seeing your memories, I wonder if it was more complicated." Ben nodded slowly. "My grandfather told me that some humans tried to stop the war. He was one of them. He worked with peace councils. But his voice was small. Most didn't listen." Kava frowned. "And ours didn't listen either." They sat quietly again. Then Ben said, "Maybe the war never really ended in our minds. Even if the guns stopped, the fear stayed." Kava looked out the window. "I think you are right." One morning, Kava returned from a long shift. His eyes were tired. His hands ached from hours of control work. But he still went to the pod. He stepped inside and saw Ben sitting on the floor, working with an old communication box. Kava's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" Ben looked up. "I am fixing this. I thought I could use it to send a message home." Kava froze. His heart raced. "If someone picks up that signal, they will trace it. They will find you. They will find me." Ben placed the tools down. "I understand. I did not mean to cause trouble. I just wanted to let someone know I'm alive." Kava took a deep breath. He could see the sadness in Ben's eyes. He also saw the loneliness. Being trapped in a small pod, hidden from the world, was hard. Even harder when you had no way to speak to your own kind. "I will help you," Kava said softly. Ben blinked. "You will?" "Yes, but the signal must be short. One burst, no coordinates. Just a message of life." Ben nodded. "That is enough." Together, they worked through the night. Ben showed Kava how to clean the transmitter. Kava rewired the power to avoid detection. At sunrise, they sent the message, "This is Ben Maris, alive, safe. We'll find a way home." That was all. Then they shut it off. The next few days felt quiet, too quiet. Kava began to notice changes. Reyna acted more serious. The officers checked the ship's records more often. One of them asked Kava strange questions about his shift reports. Nothing direct, but enough to make him worry. Later that day, Kava found a search file open on the main system. It showed a scan record from a week ago, the shuttle wreck, the same one where he found Ben. Someone had noticed a missing log. That night, Kava rushed to the pod. "Ben," he said quickly, "we may have a problem." Ben stood at once. "What happened?" "They are checking reports. They found a gap in the wreckage scan. If they search deeper, they may find everything." Ben looked calm. "Then it is time for me to leave." Kava stepped forward. "Where will you go?" "I can take the escape pod from your scout ship," Ben said. "It has fuel for a small jump. I can aim for the outer drift and call for help later." Kava hesitated. "If you go now, they might not find you. But if you stay another day, it may be too late." Ben placed a hand on Kava's shoulder. "You did more than enough. You saved me. You hit me. You gave me hope. Now it is my turn to protect you." Kava felt his chest tighten. He did not want to say goodbye, but he knew Ben was right. They moved quickly. Kava gave Ben the launch key and a map of patrol paths to avoid. He also gave him the coin again. "Keep this," Kava said. "It means more now." Ben took it and nodded. "I will not forget." They stood for a long moment. Then Kava opened the hatch. Ben stepped inside the small escape pod. The door closed. Kava watched the pod drift into space. It turned once, then vanished into the stars. Back in his quarters, Kava erased the final records. He replaced the maintenance logs with blank ones. He sat alone and waited. That night, for the first time in days, he did not go to the pod. He stared at the stars and hoped the message had reached someone. More than that, he hoped his friend had reached safety. Days passed, but nothing felt the same for Kava. The scout pod was empty now. The corner where Ben once sat was silent. The old blanket and tools were gone. Only one thing remained, a small piece of paper with a short message. "Thank you for showing me something better." Kava had read those words more than once. He kept the note hidden in a small pocket inside his uniform. He knew he had done the right thing, but he also knew what the risk was. He waited every day for a knock at his door, for a voice to call him to answer questions. But at first, nothing happened until one evening, Reyna called a full crew meeting. Kava sat with the others in the briefing room. The lights were low, and a heavy silence filled the space. Reyna stood at the front with a sharp expression on her face. She tapped the control panel, and a scan appeared behind her. It was a ship log. The screen showed the broken human shuttle. "This image was captured 12 days ago," Reyna said. The report was incomplete. "One of our tech teams found the missing scan." Kava stared at the screen, trying to keep his face calm. Reyna continued, "This scan shows signs of life that were not included in the original report. Our system flagged the error. We believe a human survivor was present, and someone on this ship helped them escape." The room was silent. Reyna looked at each officer. "This is not a small mistake. This is a crime under Varel law. If anyone has something to say, now is the time." No one spoke. Reyna's eyes finally stopped on Kava. "You were the last one to scan the wreck. You stayed longer than the others." Kava felt the weight of every eye in the room. "Yes," he said. "Did you see anything unusual?" Reyna asked. Kava took a breath. He wanted to lie. He wanted to stay safe. But he also remembered Ben's face. He remembered the music they shared, the quiet talks, the truth. "Yes," Kava said. "There was a human, alive." A whisper passed through the room. Reyna's eyes narrowed. "And you did not report it?" "No," Kava said. "I brought him to my scout pod. I kept him hidden. I gave him supplies and helped him escape." Reyna's voice turned sharp. "Why would you do this?" Kava stood straight. "Because he was not the enemy. He was kind. He was lost and alone. He never threatened me. He only spoke with honesty. I was taught to hate humans, but I found something different." Reyna looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "You broke protocol. You helped someone we have been trained to avoid. Do you understand what this means?" "Yes." Kava said, "I understand." Two guards stepped forward. Kava did not resist. He followed them quietly. They placed him in a small room with no windows, just a bed, a table, and a soft light on the ceiling. It was not a prison, but it felt like one. Each day, a voice came through the speaker asking questions. Why did he lie? What did the humans say? Did he share any human secrets? Kava answered calmly. He told them everything, but he never changed his story. He said Ben was not a threat. He said Ben deserved to live. After a few days, the questions stopped. A new officer came to see him. She wore a high-rank badge and walked with a quiet authority. She sat across from Kava and studied him for a moment before speaking. "You disobeyed a direct order. You helped a human escape. Some will call this betrayal." Kava nodded. "I know." The officer leaned back. "But your story is spreading. The way you speak about him, the things you described, it is reaching ears beyond this ship." Kava looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means the council wants to avoid public attention. So they made a decision. You will not be in prison, but you will be removed from duty, stripped of your rank. You are no longer part of the patrol." Kava felt something heavy in his chest. He had trained his whole life for this role. Now it was gone. "Where will I go?" he asked. "You will be exiled to an abandoned station in the outer zone." The officer said, "It is not prison, but you will live alone. Your movements will be limited." Kava closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them and said, "I accept." The officer stood. "You may not see it now, but your actions have started something. Some believe your words. Some want to learn more." Kava did not speak. He only nodded once. A few days later, They took him to the edge of the system. A small ship dropped him at an old mining station no longer in use. The station had power, water, and air, but it was cold and empty. Dust covered the walls. Most of the rooms were locked. Only a few were still working. Kava unpacked his few belongings. He placed the small note from Ben on the wall. He placed the old Varel coin next to it. Then he sat by the window and looked out at the stars. He was alone now, cut off from the world he had known. But he did not regret his choice. He thought of Ben every day. He wondered if he had reached his home. He wondered if someone had heard his message. The silence of the station was deep, but inside Kava's mind, there was still music. The wine song he had once played for Ben, the memory of peace. One night, he spoke softly into an old recorder. If you are out there, Ben, know that I do not blame them. They only followed what they were taught. I was like them once. But you helped me see something new. He stopped the recorder and placed it next to the note. He did not know what the future would bring, but he held one quiet hope, that one day, someone would come, and he would not be alone again. The mining station sat on the edge of the silent belt, drifting slowly in the dark. Kava had grown used to its quiet hum and flickering lights. Days passed without new sounds, without new faces. The loneliness pressed against him like cold metal. Yet, in this solitude, something inside Kava had begun to change. He no longer felt like a soldier lost from his path. Instead, he felt like a witness, a keeper of a story that could not be forgotten. One day, as he explored the dusty control room, his fingers brushed against an old comm system. It was outdated, but still functional. He dusted off the console and switched it on. Static filled the air, but then faint signals came through, small bursts of sound from far away. Kava sat down and listened closely. The transmissions were weak and broken, but among them, he heard a familiar voice. It was Ben's voice, clear and steady, speaking words in his own language. Kava's heart leaped. He reached for the recorder and started to capture the message. Help, Ben said. If you receive this, I am alive. I am safe for now. I am trying to find others who will listen. I do not want war. I want peace. The message repeated several times. Sent from a different part of the belt, Kava wiped a tear from his eye. Ben was still out there. He had survived. Kava knew what he had to do. He could not stay hidden forever. If Ben was calling for help, maybe others would answer. Maybe this was the start of something new. He began to work on the old station systems. Day by day, he repaired the long-dead engines, cleaned the communication arrays, and cleared the navigation controls. The work was slow, but steady. He had time to think, to dream, and to prepare in the evenings. Kava played the wine song on the ancient instrument he had taken from the scout ship. The soft notes drifted through the empty halls. Sometimes, he imagined Ben listening somewhere far away, hearing the music of his friend. One afternoon, a new message came through the comms. It was different from Ben's. It was a voice Kava did not recognize. We heard your call, the voice said. We want to talk. We want to understand. Kava's pulse quickened. He answered immediately. I am Kava. I am the one who helped Ben Maris. I welcome your words. The voice replied. We are from Earth. We have watched the Varel for many years. We never wanted war. We only wanted to find peace. Kava listened with hope. Maybe this was the chance he had waited for. Weeks passed with messages flowing between Kava and the Earth speakers. They shared stories, knowledge, and ideas. Kava told them about the Varel culture, their fears, and their dreams. The Earth people spoke of forgiveness, growth, and change. But not all was easy. Some messages were full of mistrust and anger. Some voices shouted that humans should never trust the Varel. Some said the Varel were dangerous and must be stopped. Kava understood. He had felt the same fear once, but he believed that change began with one voice. One small light in the dark. One evening, as the station's lights dimmed, a small ship appeared on the radar. It was damaged but intact. Kava's heart raced. The ship landed gently on the old platform. Kava opened the airlock. Standing there was a young woman with soft eyes and calm strength. I am Mira, she said. I came because of your messages. I want to help. Kava smiled. For the first time in a long time, he did not feel alone. Together, they worked to rebuild the station. They sent more signals to the belt and beyond. They shared their story of friendship and hope. Months passed. The news spread slowly through the stars. More ships came. More voices joined the conversation. Some were human, some Varel, some from other worlds who wanted peace. Kava became a leader, not by rank, but by trust. He showed that enemies could become friends, that fear could be replaced by understanding. He thought often of Ben, wondering if they would meet again someday. One night, as the two friends sat watching the stars, Mira asked, "Do you think your people will ever truly change?" Kava looked at the sky and smiled softly. "I believe they will, because people change when they see beyond fear. When they find a friend where they expected an enemy, the stars continued to shine. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was filled with hope." Months had passed since Mira's arrival at the old mining station. The small group of humans and Varel working together had grown into a community. The abandoned station was no longer a forgotten place, but a beacon of hope in the dark belt. Kava moved through the halls with a quiet confidence. He was no longer just a scout or a prisoner of his own people's laws. He was a bridge between two worlds. One morning, as the station's artificial sun rose, Kava stood by the communication console. A new message was arriving from the Varel. "High Command." The message was unexpected and marked with urgency. Mira joined him, curious. Kava played the message. The voice was formal, clear, and distant. "Kava of the Outer Belt. This is Counselor Vekran of the Varel High Command. We have received your transmissions and the reports of your actions. Your choices have caused concern among the Council. We request your immediate presence for a hearing." Mira placed a hand on Kava's shoulder. "They want to judge you." Kava nodded slowly. "Yes, but this is also a chance to speak for what we have built here." Preparations began at once. The small community readied the old ship dock nearby for the trip to the capital. Kava felt a mix of fear and hope. The council had power. They could condemn or accept. Before leaving, Kava walked outside under the fading stars. Mira stood beside him. "Are you ready?" she asked. Kava looked up at the sky, feeling the weight of the past and the possibilities of the future. "I will speak the truth," he said. No matter what happens, the journey to the capital was tense. The council ship was massive, cold, and intimidating. Kava and Mira were led to the great chamber where the Varel leaders waited. The room was filled with silence as Kava stepped forward. Counselor Vekran spoke first. "Kava, you broke our laws, you disobeyed direct orders, you risked the safety of our people by helping a human survive. Explain yourself." Kava stood tall. "I helped a lost soul because he was not my enemy. Ben was a friend. He showed me that fear can be replaced by understanding. I risked everything because I believe in peace, not war." The council murmured. Some faces showed anger, others showed doubt. Vekran raised his hand. "Your actions have consequences, but your words carry weight. We will consider your testimony after the hearing." Kava was placed under observation, but not punished further. The council sent envoys to the outer belt to meet with the new community. Kava and Mira returned to the station with hope. The council's decision was a small step but a beginning. Back home, Kava spoke with the community. "We have shown them a different way. Now, it is their turn to choose." Months later, envoys from the Varel Council arrived at the station. They came with cautious respect. Talks began about peace treaties, shared knowledge, and cultural exchange. Kava watched as old fears slowly melted in the light of trust. One evening, as the sun set, Kava stood by the window. Mira joined him. "Do you think Ben is safe?" she asked. Kava smiled softly. "I believe so. Wherever he is free." The stars blinked softly in the distance. Bridges of light were building between two worlds, and Kava knew the future was theirs to shape. The years had passed like slow rivers flowing through time. The old mining station had transformed. No longer cold or empty, it buzzed with life. Humans and Varel worked side by side. Building a new community from the ashes of fear, Kava walked through the bustling halls with Mira at his side. Children laughed as they played in the courtyard. Machines hummed softly, powered by new technology shared between the two races. Walls were decorated with symbols of peace, and the air carried a light of hope. Despite all this, Kava's heart still held a quiet hope, the hope to see his old friend again. One bright morning, a new message arrived on the communication system. The message was different, it was urgent, and it was from Ben. Kava's hands trembled as he opened it. The screen showed a small ship drifting near a distant planet in the belt. "Hello, Kava." Ben's face appeared on the screen, smiling warmly. "I have found others. There are humans who want to meet the Varel, to end the fear and start fresh. I'm coming home." Kava's eyes shone with tears. After all these years, the friend who had changed his life was coming back. The news spread quickly. The community prepared for Ben's arrival. The council envoys joined in the welcome, eager to witness the man who had inspired peace. Days later, a small ship appeared on the horizon. It landed softly, and Ben stepped out, tired but full of hope. Kava ran to greet him. They embraced like brothers reunited after a long journey. "Ben," Kava said, "you came back." "I promised," Ben replied. "It is time to build something new, together." The days that followed were filled with meetings, stories, and plans. Humans and Varel listened to each other. They shared histories, hopes, and fears. Walls built. By old hatred began to crumble. Kava watched as the two races learned to trust. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but it was theirs to walk. One evening, Kava and Ben stood together, looking out at the stars. "Do you think it will last?" Ben asked softly. Kava smiled. "It must, because now we have more than fear. We have friendship." Ben nodded. "And friends are stronger than enemies." The story of Kava and Ben became a legend. A story told to children across worlds. It was a story of hope, courage, and change. Kava had once been taught to see humans as enemies, but through friendship, he had learned a greater truth, that the greatest power in the universe was not in weapons or laws. It was in kindness. And in that kindness, a new dawn was born.